Okay, it's May 25th, 2021, and I'm Roz Foster of the Brevard County Historic Commission. And today I'm entered during an oral history interview with Mr. Coleman Frog Mitchell.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell.
Good afternoon.
Yes, it's good to be here with you today.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking about the turpentining and citrus industries of North Brevard County.
All righty.
First of all, let me get a little bit information, personal information about you. What is your full name,
Coleman Mitchell.
and when were you born?
3rd month, 29th, 1929.
1929. That makes you 90.
Two.
92 years old. That's wonderful, and you're doing very well. And who were your parents?
John Mitchell and Mary E. Mitchell.
Okay, and where did they come from?
Well, my dad from Valdosta, Georgia. And my mom is from a little place up here they call Chipley, Florida.
Chipley. I know where Chipley is. Aha. And about what time did they come here to Mims?
Well, we come here December 1939. The year was gone.
And so you settled here in Mims, and did you work in the groves? Did your
Well, when we came here working turpentine. My dad was working turpentine. I was too small to work.
Okay. And he worked turpentining out at the turpentine camp, and where was that located?
The turpentine camp was on Turpentine Road out here off of 46.
Okay. And what did that turpentine camp look like, and who lived there?
Well, it was a place just built up with about 25 or 30 houses. Well, it was more black people out there than it was here in Mims
Oh.
at that time.
And who do you remember who some of them were? Their last names of them?
Yep. We had the Owens family. We had the McCullough family. You catching it? Am I going too fast for you?
No. That's
Okay. We had the Barkers, and we had Stiggins family, and we had so many people out there.
So there were about 25 houses. Was there a church and a school out
Yeah,
there?
church. That's where St. Mary Church started on Turpentine Road.
Oh, St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I started out there on Turpentine Road, and they moved it to Wiley Road up here in Mims.
And who was the pastor out there?
At that time, a guy called Reverend Jones.
Reverend Jones. Okay. And was there schooling?
No, we had to come here to school.
You came here to Mims for
Yeah,
school?
they had a bus that come out and pick us up and bring us into Mims. And
Well, where did you turpentine? Where did they collect it?
we was this turpentine, the turpentine steel
Yeah, where did you collect the turpentine?
from pine trees.
Okay.
They would go. They had something they call a hack. It was made kind of like that with a sharp blade and had about a 5-pound weight on it. And they'll chip one little old gas each week on the turpentine on a pine tree. And that they had a cup on that, and that turpentine run into that cup. They had two tins, one a gutter and one straight tin like that, and they run that turpentine in that cup. Then once a month, they go by and dip that cup. They were toting something like a 5 or 10-gallon bucket, and they'll get that bucket full, and then they can't dump it on a 55-gallon drum like that one over there.
Ah.
And then they'll bring that. The still was up here on US 1.
And what was the name of that still?
Or they just call it Kelly Turpentine still. That's where they processed it at. and they made stuff out of there, what they call rosum go one way, and the turpentine go the other way. Then they put that in the barrel, the rosum and turpentine. Then they would ship that to Jacksonville, to some factory up there.
Did they put it on the train?
No, they hauled it up there on the truck.
On the trucks. What happened to Kelly's?
He died. Well, he went up. I know you heard talk about Destin, Florida.
Yes.
Well, Kelly the one started Destin, Florida over there on the Gulf. And he's the first man that had his own bank in Destin, Florida. That was another turpentine still that he had there.
And what was his full name? Kelly's name? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. His name was, cause I'm named after him. His name was Coleman Kelly.
Coleman Kelly. Okay. Coleman Kelly. And what happened to the building and the still after he moved?
Well, they tore it down and they sold the property. Well, they tore that still down. Then they put in a block plant and a cement plant there. Then he sold that to Ranker. Then Ranker just tore it all down. And they sold it to, I guess, to the state or somebody.
Okay. So Mr. Kelly, he went on to bigger and better things in Destin, Florida, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And he did. What happened to the camp out on 46?
Well, they sold those old houses and people went out there and, they need lumber and they tear them down and build more houses somewhere else.
Okay. So this was, and approximately what time period was this in?
Well, really that place closed down probably about, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere about 47 or 48.
After the war.
Yeah, it went out of business.
Went out of business. And what happened to those people who lived at the Turpentines?
Most of them come to Mims, and from Mims to other places, some all down to Sarasota, Florida, Tampa, and everywhere around. They just scattered everywhere.
Okay. Let me ask you about the. You went to school at Kyler here in Mims?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who were some of your teachers?
Well, I didn't have but three. When I was in the second grade, a lady called Miss Adams. Then when I got in the third grade, Mrs. Moore was my teacher through the third, fourth, and then when I got out the fourth into the fifth, then Professor Moore. He taught the fifth and the sixth. And then he sent us from there to Titusville.
And where did you go to school in Titusville?
Gibson.
Gibson?
Yeah.
And that was quite a school, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was an old two-story building. Yeah, it was a good-sized building then.
Yeah, very good. Let me ask you about the development of Mims. You've seen it grow quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And who are some of the movers and shakers who really were involved in the development of Mims?
Well, Kelly was one of them, because he built a lot of houses over there on Wiley Road, and he must have developed a couple 100 acres of grove right on Wiley Road there. And let me see, the Duff, they did quite a bit.
Oh, Mr. Duff?
Yeah, Duff.
Yeah, didn't they have a grocery store here?
Yeah, they had a grocery. Old Man Duff was two grocery stores in Mims. Old Man Duff owned the one, the post office, he owned the grocery store, and the post office was in his
Post
store.
office in the store, yes.
Then Mr. Oh gosh, I can't think of the man's name now. But he had a grocery store right there where the furniture store is.
Done?
No, not Dunn. Dunn had the Minute Market right across there, and Dunn owned the place where the Walgreens is. Then he had a garage there.
That's right, Dunn's Garage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so US 1, were the roads always paved in Mims, or?
No, only thing was Pale and Mims was US 1 going through Mims. All the rest of them was dirt roads, both sides, white and black.
Um, when did, do you remember being without a telephone up here?
Yes, ma'am. They didn't bring electric lights in here until had to be about 43. Yeah, about 43 or 4.
And that's when they ran the electricity up here.
Yeah, that's when they ran electricity. All this was dark. When you go outdoors at night, you couldn't see nothing.
So what did you use, kerosene lamps?
Yes, ma'am. Kerosene lamps. And we used to cut these old mosquitoes was so bad we had to cut them birds out the palmettos and strip them down and make a fan out of them at night when you start down.
Mosquito beater, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about the mosquitoes. How bad were they?
Oh, they were so bad. If you get up in the morning, if you walk out there in the yard, they'll come up in your face. Yeah, until about 9 o'clock, 8 something. As soon as the sun come up, then they'll disappear.
Let me ask you something. Do you remember the Grove workers? I heard stories, and I'm not sure if you're the one that told me before when I interviewed you about some of the workers used to dip snuff because the tobacco juice from the snuff would come out in their perspiration, and it would keep the mosquitoes off of.
I think that was Mr. Wilson saying that told me about that day.
Did it work?
Well, I really don't know. Mr. Wilson was telling me about the only thing I knew about the grove workers. The mosquitoes were so bad. What they did do, they bore a hole. They had these old Model 8 tractors. They didn't have tractors like I got there. They bore a hole in the exhaust pipe. Then they'll have a gallon of diesel hanging on that tractor, and he'd be dropping in that exhaust pipe, and he'd be making a great big smoke. And that's what they would go down through the grove with that, spreading that smoke, and that would run the mosquitoes.
Oh, that would get them away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering how on earth they worked with so many mosquitoes.
Well, they did it. Well, I have seen people had to knock off, to get bad.
Yeah. Where were some of the packing houses here?
Well, I don't know. All I know, the Blue Goose was there.
And that was Mr. Roberts' packing house.
Right. Yeah.
Where was that located?
And Exchange, I didn't work for them either. But I worked for Nevins for about 40 years.
Oh, so you know a lot about Nevins then. So JJ Packing House, that was on JJ.
It started it was on, when I first started working for them, it was on JJ Road on the riverside down there. Then somewhere along about, way up in the 50s, they moved it up on US 1.
And where was, let's see, we had Blue Goose on 46, where the Baptist church is on the 46. Right. And then the JJ was on the other, on where you just said. What was the other one? The other one that we were...
Mims Citrus?
Yeah, Mims Citrus. Yeah, Mims Citrus. Where was that located?
It was on 46
Across from
from Blue Goose.
Blue Goose. Some people today don't understand the packing houses back then were very busy places, and at Nevins, I understand they used to make their own orange crates.
Well, all three of the packing houses made their own orange crate.
What were they made out of?
They made out, I guess, some little slabs about 4 inches. They about 4 inches wide. Might have been a little wider. And then they had to put an end in it. It was a solid block. I mean, solid piece of wood. They all were made out of wood, you know.
Yeah.
And they had guys building those things. They knew how to build them, you know. They had the material. The material come in bones, and they just go there and rip it. And
Did they staple them together, or stapling machine, or nail?
no, they had to do it with a hammer. And then they had a piece of something like some people used to call it turpentine. It's a thin metal that goes around that box, come back up to that top, and then they take nails in there to help hold it, you know, to keep the boards or anything from falling off. Cause we had to handle them pretty rough, you know. Yeah, I used to take them and manhandle them up to the next box. They'd be full boxes, 2 bushels to the box, you know.
2 bushels to a box?
Yes, ma'am.
About how heavy were they?
They're pretty heavy. I think 60 pounds to a bushel. It's 120 pounds of weight beside the box.
Wow.
So I imagine that you were picking up 160, 170 pounds.
Now, were they shipped by rail?
Yes, they were. Shipped by rail.
How much in the groves? How much was a grove a picker paid?
Well, when I was a boy picking oranges, they were getting about 6 cents a box. Grapefruit was 3 cents a box. Then when I got big enough to pick, they were paying 10 cents for oranges, and you had to clip them. You couldn't pull them, you had to clip them. Then they went up to about 4 cents for a box of grapefruit. You were picking 2 bushels for 4 cents.
Good grief. My heavens. What was a typical day's work, for instance? What time did you go to work?
Well, you had to be on the pole, what they call the greasy pole. They didn't come down in here and get you. You had to walk up to Mims up there by the Walgreens. I call that the greasy pole. You had to be up there about 6:30, cause the truck picks you up at 7. Then you get on the back of the truck, and then they ride you to work.
And what were some of the groves that you worked in?
Well, I tell you, they extend from the hospital all the way to New Smyrna. That's all was up the Hammett Road, nothing but groves. And J.J. Parrish, he owned the most of the groves it was, and then Mims' sister owned the rest of them mostly. Blue Goose owned a few.
How about Mr. J.J. Parrish?
Was the biggest grower here. He growed a lot. Then he went and bought in with Fairmere Farms down to Fairmere. Then he moved on down to Fort Pierce, and he bought a lot of groves down at Fort Pierce. J.J. Parrish was about one of the biggest growers it was around here anyway.
Let me ask you this. I believe in the other interview that we did, you were talking about sort of the team or that got together. There was like a supervisor or a person who head up a team, and he'd pick the best pickers and they made a sort of a contest about who could pick them out. Tell me about that.
Back then you could do that because there's only three jobs going around here: sawmill, turpentine, and orange grove. And it was so many people that if you didn't want to work for me, and he come to you and ask you, say, "Can you give me a job?" You actually says, "Who do you work for?" And you'll say, "Well, I was working for Mr. Mitchell." And he'll look at you. He said, "Well, if you and Mr. Mitchell can't get along, say, I know you can't get along with me," so they wouldn't hire you. You couldn't go from one farmer to another like that. Just quit me and go to you. They wouldn't hire you. No, they'll just tell you it was tough because there wasn't no jobs going on. And then later on in the years, civil service came in. Then that made it a little different, you know.
You knew Mr. Henry Maxwell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I understand he had a lot of groves.
Well, he did. His grove was down on Collar Road down there. Just as you enter Collar, enter the hammer down there. Then old man Maxwell, he owned it, I guess, 100 and some acres in there, 200 acres down through there at that time.
Mr. Maxwell did?
Yeah, he was a big man.
That was a lot of groves.
Yeah, and old man Maxwell was a big money man, and he owned it most what is that, Dummy in Titusville.
Out at Dummit?
Yeah, he owned it. When I came here, old man Maxwell owned the most that.
Really?
Him and not Joe Warren, but Ben Warren.
So they were very prosperous with the citrus industry back then when citrus was king. The Warrens too.
Orange and old man Maxwell and the Collars. And I think, I'm not for sure, I know Brenda granddaddy, he used to have an old mule, and he did, I don't know if he own any grove down there, but by Collar.
That was Henry Campbell.
Yeah. Now he had an old mule, he would work a lot of the grove for the people.
Uh-huh. So people would contract to work the groves for the owners who...
Yeah, that's when I came along. Well, see, it was kind of rough on black people. Only somebody could get a soft job with a white man. And I then come along in 41, the war broke out. Then they took so many people away from here and everywhere else that labor was real hard to get. Then they had to start hiring black foremen because we the only ones could get somebody to work, you know. Most of us, we really stuck together better than we did now, but a lot of people didn't know it. Now, they wouldn't work for you, but they would work for me. So that puts me in a pretty good position. That's what made me get up here. See, when I first went to Nevins, I was the oldest black. Okay, I had about 40 head of men. The white only could get about 6, 7, 8 people to work. Then my first year, I moved to the top. There were guys that had been working for him for 40 years. But my first year, I got to hit all those guys, and they really they didn't like me, you know, but wasn't nothing they could do about it. Because my superintendent, he didn't care what color you were, long as you could do the work. And I could get the work done, and I always cried to him. I'd come home with $2,000. I said, "Hey, boss," I said, "you got anything you could get me to do Saturday, Sunday? I'm shooting a little bad." He said, "I admit you not shooting bad." So I did that, you know, to keep in, let them know I ain't getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Stayed under, so they always treated me, I was the head man when I left there.
That's wonderful. And when did you leave Nevins?
Well, I left Nevins about 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
35.
Um, tell me about the uh, tell me about the sawmill. Where I keep hearing about a sawmill. Where was the sawmill?
When I came here, it was up there on our Rancher Road.
A rancher. Okay. And who ran it? Was that
Henry,
Go Three? Go Three?
Henry Ghost.
Yeah.
Later on, I think this was probably in the 60s then, I think. They finally moved it down here to Lake Green. Right there where your Brevard Lumber Company, that's where the sawmill wound up at, right there. They had a bunch of houses built back in there.
Why do they call East Mims the mill quarters?
I don't know. Ever since I was a boy, that's all I ever heard them called, East Mims.
Yeah.
Over in East Mims, that's all I guess. If you think about it, if you go from Jacksonville to Miami, you're only going to find black peoples on the east side of US 1 in only 4 places. That's Almond Beach, Burnell. Then you don't find no more after you leave Almond Beach until you get to Mims. Then when you get to Mims, after you leave Mims, you don't find no more black people until you get down to Gifford. And then from Gifford on, no black people on the east side of US 1.
I wonder why.
I don't know. I guess on account of the river and the lake, you know, they are, most y'all want to be on the water. And
You're smart.
yeah, now, right now, yeah, they trying to get Mims just as fast as they can. Because this is what they call waterfront property now, you know.
A lot of development going on.
Yep. But you know, take us, we didn't want to be on no water. We want to get away from that water.
That's right. But do you remember any of the black community work at the sawmill?
Yeah, the Woodson. And, oh, Lordy, I know the Woodson stayed there for years. And the Stocks. What was Reverend Stocks' last name? Stocks?
John Sparks.
Yeah, he left. He stayed there. And, it's been, I didn't know too many people at the sawmill. I knew the Woodson because he and I used to work together.
Did you ever take the train to Jacksonville?
No, ma'am. No, I never did.
Okay. Did you take it anywhere?
Not the train. I always caught the bus.
Always caught the bus. Okay. Did you at Nevins? Did you help load the railroad cars with the boxes of fruit?
No, ma'am. I was kind of like the foreman, you know, and I didn't have to do. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to.
That works for you, did.
Yeah, I was. My job was telling them what to do.
There you go. There you go. And how many? About how many boxes of fruit did they ship a week or so?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that. They had this. They'd run so much of fruit.
Did they in the season? When was the season that you picked?
Well, the season started when I first come here. The season didn't last as long because there wasn't as many girls. They'll start picking in December. They had to wait till the fruit kind of ripen up because they didn't have coloring room, didn't know how to color room. And that would be what they call Hamilton, pineapples, and navels. And there was only one kind of grapefruit then, what they call a Dunkin'. Yeah, and then that season, the early fruit would last till about, might go till March. And then you had to knock off until about May for the phalanges to come in. And they only lasted about 4 or 5 weeks then. That's about how many grows around here.
And were they used chiefly for juice, the Valencias?
Well, it wasn't they didn't have it, no juice plant, no nothing around here. On the juice you got, they had it at the little old fruit stands.
Yeah.
And there you go and buy fruit and then you could buy juice. Later on, well, first they had all the curl fruit. They had to haul it to the woods, and a lot of times they would load it on trucks and that drive to Mims and drive through the sawmill and drive through the turpentine quarters and all them little children, they'd be getting it off the trucks in 10 tub full, to empty the truck. So that let them know they didn't have to throw it off. Well, then Minute Maid come in and started the juice plant. And that's when they really went to making money. The juice plants opened up.
And where were they located?
Well, the first one was located in Orlando. They opened up down Fort Pierce way, but I didn't know nothing about Fort Pierce at that time.
But what serviced the groves here was in Orlando.
Yeah. Then they went, one was in Leesburg,
Leesburg.
one was in D-Land.
Over on Wiley Road, there was a camp over there, a workers' camp. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, that was Nevins Labor Camp on the corner of Wiley Road and Harry T. Moore. They stayed there for quite a few years. Well, they had the Magna workers. They had them living in such a terrible places until the state come in and seen the places they were living in, and they made them build these cement camps, block camps, and that's the way that come in. My son and I, they were little boys, and I went to a little town over here from Lake City called Lake Cross. I went over to buy a bus, and you could see holes in the house that big. And I told my son, I said, you know what? I said, it rained on the inside of the house and leak on the outside. and
That's true.
and that same year, the state come in, and they went to checking these camps. And they made them start building camps to put those people in. Now, the camp I had, it had air conditioning, everything in it. It was just like a motel. I lived like.
And where was that located?
That was like located in New York, up to, what's the name of the little place, baby? Newfane in Appleton. Yeah, I had everything in that, and I had 2 people to the room.
That was pretty good then.
Oh, that was good. We were living in class.
Let me ask you, when did you start seeing the decline in the citrus industry in this area?
Well, I didn't see it until after the death of J.J. Parrish. After the death of J.J. Parrish, and the son took over. The youngest son was running good. He was a good businessman. But he got caught up on drugs. Then the oldest boy, he took over full custom, and he didn't want to put I put it this way, the younger generation after the older generation died. They didn't want to fertilize it. They didn't want to spray it. And you got to feed anything to keep it going. And that's when the younger generation took over after the death of J.J. Parrish. And after the death of Cocky Flake, I didn't know too much about it. I think Blue Goose just sold out.
Well, the other packing houses, they had closed up, correct?
Yep, Exchange had closed up. JJ Pasture, the last one closed.
And the Blue Goose, did that burn down?
No, they just went out of business and set up in Lake Will. Now they got a Blue Goose now in Lake Will.
When they used to pack, I remember that you used to get oranges packed in tissue papers.
Yeah, they used to wrap that like they used to wrap a orange like you wrap an apple, you know.
Yeah, in tissue paper.
Well, I didn't know nothing about that time. When I come along, they were putting it in the boxes. Now, when I went to New York, they used to wrap apples and put that in the paper, you know.
Did you use anything when you packed them here? Did you use in the old days? I've read articles about they used to use Spanish moss sometimes to pack them in because it was spongy.
Well, no, that was ahead of my time.
That was a long time
Yeah, that
ago.
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
When I come in, they were just putting them right in the crate. Yeah.
What's a blood orange?
That's like a red, like a pink grapefruit, a red grapefruit, like that.
Is it crossed with something?
It's a navel orange. They cross drafted into what they call a red navel.
And a Parson Brown?
Well, that's early orange, just like a Hamilton or pineapple, you know.
Do they still grow any of those old varieties?
No, you never see hardly any of that. Now, you take down Fort Pierce, you probably catch pineapple, Valencia, and stuff like that, you know.
Duncan grape.
But you don't see king oranges no more. Now they come out with a sunburst tangerine. That's a new variety of stuff. Then they had a Orlando tangerine. They come out lately. And they used to have the regular old timey tangerine. But they come out with so many different ones, you know.
Yeah, with the tangerines, changelos, all
Yeah.
kinds of things. Yeah, they've crossbred them, hybridized
Yeah,
them
they
so
cross-
badly now.
and then-
Yeah.
It was a king orange. It was for packing, you know, gift boxes.
Let me ask you something about transportation. When you were growing up, how many cars were there around here?
Well, when I was coming to Mims, Fred Collar had a car. Paul Collar had a car. Joe Warren had a car. Then it jump on down to Mac McClellan. Daddy had a car. Mac McClellan had a car. Robert Grant Zeke Grant had a car. Then my dad bought a car. And
What kind of cars were they?
well, they were Chevrolets and Plumbers and Marley Fords. And then what brother daughter mama name? Josiah. Josiah, Mr. Warren's, her daddy bought her car. She had a 39 Chevrolet. Cause she was going to college. They were the rich people. Tell you,
How much was gas back then?
gas was like from 25 below now. That high test was about 25. You could get it for 15, 20 cents a gallon.
Times have changed, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kerosene was 5 cents a gallon.
Yeah. Do you remember Duff's grocery store? But then it was Sharp Brothers. Did Sharp Brothers have it?
No, Sharp Brothers wasn't there. Sharp Brothers, they lived out further out there. They live about 2 miles west of the Turpentine Road out on 46. They were just farmers and trappers catching coons and otters and alligators selling. They made money in planting groves out there, you know. No, it was. Oh, only two stores was Duff and old man Overs. Them the only two grocery stores.
Owens?
Overs.
Yeah, Over, Overs. Yeah, they had us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. When the train came in, back and forth, did you remember? Did you remember Buddy Wilson from
Yes, ma'am. I
Titusville?
know Buddy Wilson very good.
Yeah, he was a fine gentleman.
He was like one of the best.
Yes, he was. Well, Buddy told me that his mama used to work at the LaGrange Depot. Okay.
No, that's where Buddy and them was raised up in the Lake Range and down there to right that way, Atlanta Utility on 40 on US 1.
On US 1. And what was LaGrange like back then? A lot of people don't even know LaGrange. There was a community LaGrange existed.
Lake Range wasn't nothing on US 1 in Lake Range. Not the new new US 1. On the old Dixie, you come around in Lake Range. It had about 4 or 5. They must have been rich people. They built pretty good houses right there. The old houses still standing there. Then, at that time when I was a boy, they was expensive houses, you know. But it was about, let me see, 1, 2, 3. Well, old man Carlisle, he had a big old 2-story building there. It's a white.
Yeah, that was right on Old Dixie there.
Yeah, that's right on Old Dixie, yeah.
Just south of Dairy Road.
Right.
Now, they had groves, correct?
Yeah, right now.
The Carlisles had groves.
Carlisle, they was the big growers.
Yeah. How about Singletons? Do you remember Singletons?
It wasn't there. Singleton was a dirt road. We used to walk. Well, a guy had some horses in a wagon, and they'll come out to Turpentine on the wagon, and we would jump on the wagon and ride all the way back to Titusville and walk. Singleton was a little dirt trail through that end. And they run that with horses, and we'll ride all the way to Main Street, to 90th Avenue on the wagon, and then walk all the way back through the woods back to the Turpentine Pier.
That was a long way.
Yeah, but we didn't mind. It was just running and hollering and playing.
Yeah, that was it. When the St. Johns River out of 6 Mile Creek, did you used to go fishing at 6 Mile Creek at all?
Well, yes, I used to be one of the best places. Everybody in Mims, that's where you used to go to 6 Mile Creek because you catch all the fish.
Yeah. What kind of fish did you catch?
Oh, you caught bluegill, shell crackers, speckle perch, you know what I call them, crappie. We catch all the bass, catfish. Wasn't no such a thing as now perch.
So, Old Dixie was a dirt road back then, wasn't it?
No, Old Dixie was a little narrow road. Just if you was going north and I'm going south, I had to put one of my wheels off the road to pass. 46 was the same way.
Oh my, goodness gracious.
And when you get to the bridge, you had to wait almost.
Yeah, well, now 46, was that a dirt road back then?
Well, I tell you how far 46 was. The new 46 was peeled up to 6 Mile Creek. Then the old 46, it was paved, but it was narrow, just like we going to Stanford. You coming east and I'm going west. When we meet, I had to give you half of that. One of my wheels had to be on the dirt, and one of yours on the dirt. to pass.
Good grief.
That's how wide the road was.
It wasn't very wide, was it?
No.
No. How about? Do you remember? And did you ever work over on the on Merritt Island in the Groves?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you work up at the Dummett Groves for Mr. Schuler or Wallace or any of those people?
When I went along there, most was over there then was
What?
not the Watton, but
Cook?
oh, I can't think of them people's names. All of them old people you named in, but
Taylor?
oh Lord, I can't think of them.
Tello? Cole?
It was a lady. Her husband killed her over there. I can't think.
Dunn?
Yeah, she was over there. And then now see, J.J. Pash owned a lot of those groves over there.
He owned a lot of the groves on the island.
Yeah, he owned a lot of groves on the island because he had a camp set up in Mills Island and had those black people over there working for him over there. When I come along, that's who owned the most of the groves on Mills Island.
Now there was a camp over there.
Yes, ma'am.
Where was it located?
It was you know where that's 424 cross
406 gone over there.
yeah, 406 going over there. Then you know where the canal is, cross
3.
you know where 3 at.
Yeah,
in the
3. That's
canal.
Wilson's Corner.
Yeah, you cross the canal and go 1 block down and go back in there. No, you went down. Well, anyway, somewhere along there, I don't know where you know where Reverend Harris Church is on State Road. Just on the top of the trail, right on the river. They had a big camp back there. On top of the trail.
Tropical Trail. That's going south.
Yeah. No, they was on the north end.
Oh, on the north end. Okay. Do you remember anything about some of the communities over on the island at all? Before
No.
Kennedy Space Center was there?
No, only thing I know, right up there for 407. Well, they call that Coleman in there.
Courtney?
Yeah. Now, at that time, the state was, they would lend you homestead land. That you could homestead 5 acres, but you had to build a little hut on it. Stay 5 years, then that become your property. And then finally, they come on up to, the government bought all that land. Then they open up over here on Hollow Canal, went to building houses over there, selling lots. People went to building houses. They got a lot of old roads in there now, paved roads in there. People built houses. Then the government finally bought everything all the way to Volusia County. And then I was going to buy some land over there. And my older brother told me, he said, oh, boy, them white folks ain't going to let you stay over there. And I'm listening at him like a dummy. And didn't buy none of it.
Did you ever work up at Shiloh? In the groves at Shiloh?
Oh, yeah, I worked in Shiloh.
Because I remember there used to be Shiloh Packing House up there, too.
Well,
So
Alan Taylor and them on it.
That's right. Alan Taylor owned it. Yeah, that was big citrus up in that
Yeah.
area. That's all gone, too.
All that gone.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else that you can remember about the citrus industry? We talked about on your other interview about fire in a grove.
Yeah, we
and,
talked about that
the
and the
smudge
draft.
pots and all that
the
kind
drafting.
of stuff. And grafting. You were a grafter, and all of that on the other one. anything else that you can think of about the sawmill or about some of the people in Mims?
No, ma'am. No more than I know. I worked one day to the sawmill, and I ain't worked now another day to a sawmill.
And you never want to work at a saw. That's hard.
No, ma'am. I
No.
left that sawmill. I too hard to work.
Where did they get the wood from?
Oh, out the woods, all that from here to from 46 all the way to St. John River, and all the way back to Tillman Place. I'll go all the way back, go past Cosmo up there through them woods. It was just a lot of turpentine trees and pine trees, and after they turpentine the trees, then sawmill come in and start sawmilling.
Oh, okay. Like over at Maytown.
Yeah, right.
Maytown Road over in
Yeah, all the way back Maytown Road, Judge. We used to bring it from all the way back over there.
Yeah. What was there anything to Maytown? Was there anything there?
No, I ain't never known nothing being Maytown, but it was a turpentine still up above there, up over there when I was a boy, like it was over here.
Yeah. I think that's where Mr. Mackenzie came from.
Yeah, back over that way.
Back in that way when he was a little boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
How about Oak Hill? What was in Oak Hill? Do you know
Uh,
anything about Bill's Hill?
now, Oak Hill, now, they had quite a few groves over there,
Yeah.
but not like what's here, like quite a few people working Oak Hill, working groves up there. But most of those guys, they went into building. And the younger generation, when they got coming along now, 80 and 85 years old, they went to school and they come into building and electric work, like that. So they did more of that than block land.
When I know that when the citrus industry was sort of going away, and Kennedy Space Center was built, and coming up with the space industry, a lot of the citrus grove workers went to work at Kennedy Space Center in the maintenance businesses and stuff because they got benefits and stuff. Tell me about that.
Well, see, that's what causing them to start getting magnet workers in.
Right.
Kennedy Space Center. The people that were working sawmill, orange grove, they could make much more money. Wasn't that much, because when I went over there, they only paying $1.25 an hour. Yeah. But then I worked a while, and I said, well, I'm making $250 and ain't working but 4 or 5 hours with what I'm doing, but it was hard work. I said, I ain't going out there working for no $50-something a week. So I quit. And 2 weeks after I quit the Space Center, they went up to $3.35 an hour. And then I could have killed myself, But the Lord fixed it so I was blessed to get a job that I could make more money. Just didn't have the benefits, But they did give us a chance that we could carry our own retirement,
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, all the foremen could have retirement.
Yeah, that was good. Who were some of the other foremen in the area from Mims?
Well, they had J.D. Helen, he from Scottsmore. Dolan Cancer, he from Scottsmore. Macklemore was right here in Mims. Almond Carlisle was right here in Mims. Norris Carlisle was right here in Mims. Paul Collar was right here in Mims. And myself was right here in Mims.
So you chiefly worked your crews in the north area of Brevard County and Volusia County?
Well, yes, I did.
Yeah.
I went from Volusia County to Union County.
Oh, wow. That's a big...
That was for Nevins Fruit Company. Then after I left Nevins Fruit Company, I would cover baby food. I went strictly to New York.
And how long were you gone there?
Oh, from 4 to 5 months.
And then came back to Mims.
Yeah, then I come back to Nevins.
Do you know Harry Timor?
That was my school teacher.
Oh, was he a good teacher?
Yes, ma'am. He was one of the best. You learned. You got tore up.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's
he used to don't chill like that there, boy. You didn't learn nothing, boy. You put your across that thing.
uh, and we mentioned Crandall Warren, Crandon and Maybelle Warren.
Yeah,
He
maybe.
was in electric business, right?
Well, Connor, yeah, he was in the electric business, and Fabielle, she worked for the Nevins Fruit. When I was a boy, she worked for Nevins until she just about retired at the packing house, every year.
And how about Bernice Kyler? You remember her?
Oh, yeah, I went to school with her.
And let's see, how about Juanita Wright?
No, she's up ahead of me.
Ahead of you. Lucy Ziegler, she was.
Yeah, Lucy was a little bit ahead of me. She was up ahead of me.
Do you remember her mom and dad, the Bells?
I remember Miss Bell. I think her dad was dead. I remember when they were living down there by where the packet, just on the other side of the hospital on US 1, and I remember her mother and her brothers, and her other sisters.
Do you remember the Campbell family?
Yes, ma'am. Our brother's grandparents, I know them.
And did you know any of the Campbells that lived over on the island?
Well, wasn't but one when I come on. That's about the only somebody that lived with. But one camel live on the island. They didn't let too many else live on the island. Yeah. And Christmas, if one camel lived in Christmas, they didn't. Only way he lived in Christmas, they had a big turpentine still in Christmas.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, and so so that was processed in Christmas too.
Yeah, they were processing Christmas. It was a big thing. That was all people had to work: farm, turpentine, and orange grove and sawmill. Yeah, Brenda, they had an uncle over there. And he was the one that black lived over there. Well, they really were. I think they crossed up with a lot of Indians.
Do you remember seeing any Indians around here?
You could see it in it, and Brenda granddad in them. Yeah, you could see that in them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Grandma Lucy was.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Warren family that lived, they used to live over where the Moore Center is built now.
Well, the Warrens, the
Sims.
and the Harry T. Moore, they owned that whole block from Passage Road back almost to just about to Parker, all the way to St.
Yeah.
And,
It was a big piece of property.
yeah, they were rich people. They owned that, and where Nevins packing house is there, they owned it, all that property there, and all that houses we built right across from Nevins. The Warrens owned it all of that, and they had.
George Warren had a lot, and he also built a school for his children, which was on the corner of Parish Road.
That's where the school used to be.
That's where the school. And do you remember anything about that school?
No, ma'am.
It was long gone by the time you got there. Yeah. How about the horse and buggies that used to be around here?
Well, only one I seen. It wasn't a buggy. Only one I seen from the granddaddy had that, a wagon and a mule. And he used to have his flour stowed up in that wagon and go down in the grove and fly.
How about grubbing a grove? What's that mean? Hard work.
That's hard work.
And what does that term grubbing a grove mean?
Well, they had to build a mound with hand. They had what they call a grubbing hoe. And you had to take that grubbing hoe and cut the roots. And you had a shovel and you build up a mound, maybe that high and maybe this big around. Then you set that tree right in the middle of that mound and you leave a water circle around it. And that's the way, see, most of the people had to clean land up with hands, you know.
Yeah, hard work.
And they used to shoot a lot of dynamite blowing tree roots and things up.
I heard of that.
Yeah.
And some people used to fish that way too.
Oh yeah, that was against the law that way.
They used to put dynamite in and blow up.
Well, you know, you don't have to you can get some lime and put in a jug and put a little hole in top of that top and let that water drip in there. And that lime will bust that jug and it'll go just like a dynamite. It'll kill a lot of people.
Do you remember when there used to be a lot of mullet out in the river?
Yes, ma'am.
They used to flap, flap, flap on the water all the time.
Yep, I used to catch a lot of them too.
Yeah, good fried mullet.
But now, I don't know. Don't hardly see them now.
No. How about gators?
Ooh, boy, they overstocked.
Yeah.
I can take you out there and carry you down St. John, just south, and I'll show you 50 and 60 gators up on like a day like today, 50 or 60 gators in one spot.
Oh, my.
You going down the river, and boy, they come running to the river. You want to slow your boat down. You go another little piece, there's another bunch of them.
Really?
Yeah, it's overstocked with gators.
Yeah. How about? Do you remember when there used to be any panthers around here? Do you remember ever seeing any panthers?
No, I hadn't seen any, but yeah, I seen one on the Cape. I was coming off the Cape one evening, and I seen that panther. But they say they around here, but I hadn't seen. That's the only one I ever seen.
Yeah, they're rare. How about snakes?
Oh yeah, used to be plenty of those here, rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes.
Yeah. But see, a rattlesnake, he won't stay anywhere to jaw. If it's anything jarring him, he won't stay around. But see, like when you're cutting logs for the sawmill, you ain't got to worry about no snakes. The only snake you have to worry about when you're sawing logs is these old black runners. You gonna find them.
And they don't hurt you.
No, they don't hurt you.
They're just as scared of you as you are them. They don't hurt you. Yeah.
But that cottonmouth and rattlesnake, if you cutting logs and they fall and they jar in the ground, they keep moving on ahead of you.
Yeah. When you cut the turpentine trees, or when you went to turpentine, and I remember that they used to have sometimes for a drip thing. They had a piece of metal that they stuck in the pine tree, like that would funnel it down.
Okay, just like say this is a pine tree. They nail a piece of tin straight across that pine tree like that. Then they'll come on this side of that pine tree with a little old thing like a gutter, and it pointed in just like that. Then they nail a cup under that piece of tin, and that turpentine went off that little piece of tin into that cup.
Well, do you have to cut the bark?
Yes, you have to cut the bark. You cut it about 1/4 inch into the wood. Yeah, you got to go a little deeper than the bark. I said just about 1/4 inch into the wood. And now sometimes they on them old cross ties like that there, you can see where they have been worked sometime one time, you know. And see, after they work it so high with what they call a hake, then it get too high for you to do this with a hake. Then they have a handle like that long, and it'd be about 8 foot, 6 to 8 foot long, and they have what they call a pulley in it. Then you reach it up there, and you make a mark on each side every week, like that. And you're only cutting about a quarter of an inch of wood. Then that turpentine start dropping.
Now, is there a certain time of the year that you turpentine?
No, year round.
Year round. Okay.
Okay, in the wintertime, when it's cold, a pine tree don't drop. Turpentine is fast. But what they do, they call themselves, during that whole year, it'll build up, where that turpentine keep running, it build up what they call, it get thick on the pine tree like that. Then you have to take something like a shell and go along and clean that off.
Is it rosin?
Yeah.
Like rosin?
You have to, you get that off, and then that let the turpentine run freely the next year, you know.
Ah, I see.
What they call scraping, that's what they call it, scraping. You have to scrape that stuff off every year by Christmas time, and that's where they made the money for Christmas. When scrape time comes, my dad, he used to contract and had a bunch of guys working for him. And my dad used to come home with a John B. Stutton full of money, you know. Me and my brothers, Dad pour it on the bed, and me and my brother get the kind and laugh.
One time I remember, and I don't know if you remember, it was really a cold winter, and out at LaGrange Cemetery we had a huge big pine tree, and it had a lot of rosin coming out of it.
Yeah.
And when it got really cold, that just blew that rosin and bark right off of that pine tree.
I know, yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I tell you what, some of that rosin would get hard on the pine tree, and we'd go by and chip a little piece off and chew it for chewing gum.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it wouldn't stick. It would just, when it gets hard and dry like that, it'll chew up just like chewing gum.
Sort of like taffy, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Do you, let me ask you, do you remember some bad hurricanes back in? There was a bad one in 34, 44. Back in.
No, I wasn't here then.
You wasn't here then.
I didn't get here to 40.
Up to 40, okay. Do you remember any bad hurricanes going through them or bad storms going through them in the orange groves? What did you do?
Well, the worst thing on the orange grove was cold weather. The water didn't hurt us too bad because they had, when I come along, they had done start learning how to cut canals and put in pumps to keep it pumped back into the river.
Yeah. Well, how about freezes?
Oh yeah, I've seen it used to freeze up real bad here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have to fire the grove. That's when we used to fire with wood, pine wood, fat lot of, and they said it makes so much smoke, said it wasn't healthy, and then they come in with those pots like that. Then later on down the years, they said that diesel was sending out too much smoke.
Yeah.
So they stopped them from using those pots. They couldn't fire the grove.
Smudge pots, they were
Yeah,
called.
smudge pot.
Yeah, I remember you could see all the smoke in the groves. Yeah.
But I tell you, that's a hard job, finding the grove. It's not hard, but you catch a lot of cold out there.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you can think of?
I don't know much.
I think you about talked out, aren't you? Well, I appreciate you sharing your
welcome.
stories with us very much so.
You're welcome.
And I hope this will give an insight to what life used to be with the citrus industry and turpentine.
Well, I don't think that ever happened.
And the younger generation doesn't realize that all was king one day.
Oh yeah.
You know, and a lot of people made a good living at it.
Yeah, I made a good living at it, you know, but I just wanted the fortune, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And
Somebody else was doing the work and I was doing the supervising.
well, that was good. That was good. Well, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. For
You're
your
welcome.
time,
You're welcome.
And I appreciate it. And I know that the commission will be very happy to receive this.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Maybe I might live long enough to see this.
There you go. I hope so.
Hey.
Very good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that your middle name or nickname is Frog. How
Right.
did you acquire that name?
Well, we were playing in the yard and we had a bunch of little bitties in the yard. And they thought chicken couldn't swim. And we had a barrel of water in the backyard and I took the chicken and I put him in that little bitty and messed around and drowned the bitty. So one of the little boys that were playing with me, he said, I'm going to name you Frog Eye. And he went to calling me Frog. And I went to answering to it. So I've been answering that Frog ever since, and they've been calling me Frog ever since. That's the way I got that.
That's where you got the Frog.
Yeah.
And about how old were you then?
Oh, I must have been about 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So you've been nicknamed Frog since you were 5 or 6 years old?
Sure have.
92.
And 92 now, and probably, you know, if I'd have been probably 8 or 9 years old, I probably wouldn't have never answered. I just thought that was something big, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Frog Eye.
Oh, now, one more question. I understand that I saw a sign up here that you used to barbecue.
Oh yeah, I used to barbecue up until about 7, 8 months ago.
And what's your secret recipe for good barbecue ribs, chicken?
Yeah. Well, it's just most of it is knowing how to season it and let it sit up for a day or two, and then you cook it.
What kind of wood did you use?
I only use regular coals, but I only I get just a certain heat.
Yeah.
I can cook 24 or 5 slabs of ribs on that thing there, and you'll never see me with water trying to cool it down. I don't have my fire that hot. I just cook it for 4 or 5 hours.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, and I didn't have no trouble selling it, cause people
That's what I understand.
from all the way from Melbourne, Daytona, everywhere be here.
Yeah, I understand they were.
And if you didn't get here about 1 or 2 o'clock, you didn't get none.
Yeah, you cook it till they're gone. Right?
Yes, ma'am. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You could start selling barbecue at 8.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
for sharing that.